All right, welcome to the show, everybody. So, what do I have for you today? Well, the U.S. vetoed a ceasefire again at the United Nations. No surprise there, but quite genocidal, if I don't say so myself. We also have a U.S. congressman goes full Adolf Hitler, and he does it on camera, so we all get to witness it. We have Israel bombing starving Palestinians who are fishing in order to get some food to survive. We'll talk about that. We have Bernie embarrassing himself along with Pelosi. Jon Stewart versus Tucker Carlson. This is round two. For those of you who don't remember, there was a very famous clip back when Tucker Carlson used to be on CNN on a show called Crossfire, and Jon Stewart went in there and just lit the place on fire and just embarrassed Tucker. Round two, we're going to see how that goes. Jon Stewart goes after Tucker's Russia hand job that he delivered in front of the world. And then later on, there's a heated CNN debate about Trump's fraud, his $355 million fraud. And that one really gets under my skin. You're going to want to stick around for that one because this guy, Kevin O'Leary, is arguing basically that Trump did nothing wrong. And his arguments are absolutely pathetic. And he clearly didn't read anything about the case and learn any of the specifics. So he's just going out there and having verbal diarrhea in front of the world and thinking he's nailing it. So we'll talk about all that and more. Everybody do me a favor, please subscribe to the channel. It helps out massively in the algorithm, costs you absolutely nothing. All right, let's dive into it. So let's start with this. Last time we did a show, or was it 2 shows ago, we discussed how the U.S. was planning their 4th veto of an attempted ceasefire for Israel and Gaza at the UN. Their 4th veto. So the point I made is, look, at some point, the conversation is we are just as responsible as Netanyahu and the Israeli government when it comes to the death of all these innocent Palestinians. It's not just like a second-hand thing anymore. It's no, you're directly responsible. Because if it wasn't for us interjecting on the side of Israel, they would have to stop bombing and killing so many civilians. Well, guess what? This was from the other day. This morning, Biden vetoed a ceasefire in Gaza. Tonight, he goes to a fundraiser hosted by AIPAC billionaire Haim Saban, with donors giving up to $250,000 each. Well, what a mighty coincidence that is. What a mighty coincidence. You veto it, and then you run to AIPAC, to the Israel lobby, to get more campaign contributions. I'm sure there's no connection there in terms of what you're doing and how much money you're getting for it. All right, so this is incredible. You can't make this stuff up. Soon thereafter, the U.S. vetoed another ceasefire at the UN. Israel bombed Doctors Without Borders. Now, this isn't the first time they did it. In fact, I don't think it's the second or third time they've done it. We're up there in terms of the number of times that they did this. But this is a clear signal, yet again, we think we're above any sort of consequences, any kind of justice, any kind of accountability. We're going to slap down the ceasefire and then spit in your eye and bomb Doctors Without Borders. And this is on top of them bombing standalone UN buildings and schools and hospitals and every kind of civilian infrastructure imaginable and mosques and churches. And here we go again. And I think everybody's thinking the same thing, right? Like, will there ever be any accountability for what's happening here? And look, I mean, Occam's razor is no, there won't. Because they have the backing of the world's sole superpower, the United States of America, and we are shielding them. So it looks like the takeaway is there's never going to be any accountability whatsoever. But it's like, how can they get away with this? How can they get away with this? And it occurred to me that, guys, Biden, I think he perpetually lives mentally in the year 1995, where I don't even think he realizes that, like, all of this information, all of these news stories, all of the death and destruction and barbarity, we're able to witness it in real time. In 1995, we weren't able to witness it. You get like a 2-minute segment on the nightly news about how, oh yeah, there's fighting in the Middle East, and then they brush right by it. And I think Biden is perpetually mentally in that place. He doesn't realize that we're bearing witness to all of this horror on a daily basis. And so that's how we land in the situation that we're in, where we protect them no matter what the hell they do. And it just keeps getting worse and worse, and we're viewing it all. We have a front row seat to all of it. So this is interesting. According to Haaretz, Netanyahu decided to pick a fight with Qatar after the prime minister hinted that the main mediator between Israel and Hamas bears responsibility for the delay in freeing the hostages, Qatar's foreign ministry accused Netanyahu of prolonging the war for reasons that have become obvious to everyone. So, look, again, this is Netanyahu saying, I'm going to stonewall, I'm going to buy more time, and I'm going to try to find a way to point the finger at everybody else as we very clearly don't prioritize releasing all of the hostages. First and foremost, they want to just level Gaza, ethnically cleanse the place, start building new settlements, certainly at the very least in North Gaza. But for a long time, they pretended like, oh, no, we're all about getting those hostages back. That's our main concern. Well, that very clearly is not the case anymore. And Qatar's calling it out, and you have Israel pointing the finger at everybody but themselves for what's happening now. All right, so we also have this. Andrew Ogles, this guy is a Republican representative, sitting member of Congress. He was caught on video going full Nazi. So let's play it, and then we'll react to it here.
I've seen the footage of
You've seen footage of
shredded children's bodies, and that's my taxpayer dollars. I'm going to bomb those kids.
So I think we should kill them all, if that makes you feel better. Everybody, yes.
Andrew Ogles, Tennessee's 5th District. I think we should kill them all. Now, ask yourself a question. Where's the outrage? Where's the 42 news stories in the biggest outlets highlighting this and saying that, he should step down and he crossed the line and this is unacceptable and this is advocating war crimes and genocide? I haven't seen anything in the bigger outlets. I've seen nothing to this point. Now, maybe they'll get around to it, right? But compare the outrage here with the outrage when Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar breathe the wrong way. All of a sudden, it's, hellfire opens up on their head. But this guy says, I love Adolf Hitler and Goebbels and Himmler are my idols, and I would like to kill them all. And what is it? Crickets. Why? I think we all know why. If you're making an argument like this on the side of one of our allies and against one of our official state enemies, yawn, we don't care. Say whatever you want. Be as genocidal as you want. You can go over the top with it. We're not going to bat an eyelash. There's not going to be, a sustained pressure campaign from Republican leadership or even Democratic leadership, for that matter, to try to get your ass to resign. There's not going to be an attempt to get an apology. There's not going to be an attempt for you to walk it back. It's all just par for the course. Kill them all. All the grandmas, all the grandpas, all the women, all the children, all of the innocent civilians, all the people who work at a bakery or they're a fisherman or what have you. Kill them all. Again, what am I supposed to do with this stuff that I'm showing you here, guys? What am I supposed to do with this? Like, how are we supposed to react to seeing basically Nazi Germany level atrocities with a Nazi Germany level mindset? Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. It's astonishing. All right, so then we have this as well. U.S. officials when Israel uses sexual violence. Can't confirm reports. People must be treated humanely. We urge Israel to investigate. U.S. officials when Hamas uses sexual violence. We have no reason to doubt reports. Just look at the atrocities they commit against civilians. So you're going to see the bias here in front of your eyes.
Seeing the allegations, I cannot independently confirm the reports. I will say that we have been clear that civilians and detained individuals must be treated humanely and in accordance with international humanitarian law. We strongly urge Israel to thoroughly and transparently investigate credible allegations, ensure any accountability for abuses and violations, and that will continue to be our position. We've obviously seen the reports that Hamas has committed sexual violence, they've committed rape. We have no reason at all to doubt those reports. When you look at all the atrocities that Hamas carried out on October 7th and the atrocities that they have carried out since, the fact that they continue to hold women hostages, the fact that they continue to hold children hostages, the fact that it seems one of the reasons they don't want to turn women over that they've been holding hostage and the reason this pause fell apart is they don't want those women to be able to talk about what happened to them during their time in custody. Certainly, there is very little that I would put beyond Hamas when it comes to its treatment of civilians and particularly its treatment of women.
Pathetic and inexcusable Double standards. Oh, it's about Hamas? Guilty. I'm judge, jury, and executioner. I don't need to hear any more. It's basically a fact. Let's run with it like it's a fact. End of conversation. Condemn, condemn, condemn. War crime, war crime, war crime. Oh, charges of sexual violence against the IDF made by the UN? Bro, what even is sexual violence, bro? I don't know what that means, bro. What are your definitions and stuff, bro? We urge Israel to investigate themselves and tell us if they've been bad. Who are we kidding here, guys? Who are we kidding here? All right, now, this blew up. U.S. ambassador to the UN after vetoing a Gaza ceasefire resolution. What did she say? Let's listen.
We intend to do this the right way so that we can create the right conditions for a safer, more peaceful future. And we will continue to actively engage in the hard work of direct diplomacy on the ground until we reach a final solution.
So after vetoing a ceasefire for the fourth time, she goes out there and is like, look, forget at the international level. We're working on the ground to try to come to a final solution. Now, look, you want to look at that and say, it wasn't intentional. They're not referencing Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler and the final solution vis-a-vis the Jews. In this instance, it would be vis-a-vis the Palestinians, of course. You want to say it was a slip of the tongue? It was a poor choice of words? I'm open to that conversation. But here's the problem. The problem is the actions are actually lining up with the idea of a quote-unquote final solution. And this is a bullshit idea, by the way, that forget the international community, forget what every Palestinian is calling for, forget what every human rights group is calling for. Ceasefire would benefit nobody. We're working for a super, ultra, mega, top secret kind of a humanitarian pause, and we're doing it on the ground, face to face. We don't need the international community. We got it handled. We'll be good with what we make up on the ground as we go. I mean, that's just code for we don't want a ceasefire. We never wanted a ceasefire. We're not going to want a ceasefire. We're going to pretend to be working on something on the ground while we allow Israel to finish the job, do the genocide, do the ethnic cleansing, resettle North Gaza, etc., etc. God damn it, man. All right, so we also have this. Israeli finance minister Bezalel Smotrich sparks outrage after saying returning the hostages being held in Gaza is, quote, not the most important thing. Again, I remember when we were called conspiracy theorists for pointing this out a couple weeks into the attack. We were all called conspiracy theorists when we said, you know, it doesn't look like Israel cares first and foremost about returning the hostages. Why do we say that? Well, they were bombing everywhere in Gaza, relentlessly, brazenly, and by the way, they happened to kill some of their own hostages. So what's Occam's razor in that scenario? Oh, it doesn't look like you care first and foremost about the hostages. Obviously, first and foremost, what they cared about is doing the ethnic cleansing, doing the genocide, resettling at the very least North Gaza, probably trying to do it with all of Gaza, which is why they're trying to push Palestinians through the Rafah border into Egypt to set up a tent city in the Sinai Desert. Every step of the way, it didn't look like they cared first and foremost about the hostages. There's been like 4 other deals on the table that Hamas put there that Israel is rejecting. Why? Because Israel says it's not on the table to just end the war, end the fighting. We're not going to allow that. Hamas's position is if you stop completely, yeah, we'll release all of the hostages. And they're like, well, we're not going to stop completely. We'll maybe stop for a week or 2 weeks, maybe a month or something like that, but stop completely? No, we're going to finish our ethnic cleansing. So don't take it from me. This isn't just like crackpot conspiracy theory early on in the fighting. Now you have Israel's finance minister saying the quiet part out loud, which everybody knew who was paying attention and has a bare minimum amount of intellectual honesty. Everybody knew they didn't care first and foremost about the hostages. Prince William calls for an end of war in Gaza, breaking decades of tradition. Well, good for you, Prince William. Good for you. It's very rare that you get somebody in a position like this coming out there and telling the truth and getting involved politically. So very happy that he did this. Credit to him. Should have been done a long time ago, but the fact he's doing it now is good. All right, here's this. Rabbi Avraham Serbiv, an Israeli military officer in Gavati Brigade who recently came back from Khan Yunis on Israeli Channel 14 yesterday, quote, here's what he said. I see victory. I see that they don't have one house not destroyed. I see hundreds of thousands fleeing like the Nakba, walking towards exile. Add this to the quote from a few weeks back or a month or so back, where another Israeli government official came out and said, we're now doing the Gaza Nakba. Again, as the Western allies of Israel try to put lipstick on the pig in front of the world, the Israeli politicians go out there and they're like, Gaza Nakba, genocide, ethnic cleansing, hooray, bomb every house. There are no innocent civilians there. And then you have their Western allies, oh, they're abiding by international humanitarian law, and we're making sure that they do that. Like, who are we kidding? Who are we kidding? The amount of lies and the brazen nature of the lies that we've seen in this conflict, it's above and beyond anything I've ever seen. It even surpasses the U.S. with the whole weapons of mass destruction thing, the war in Iraq. Oh, Saddam Hussein worked with Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. It even surpasses that, because every day it's another gigantic, obviously false lie that they try to pitch to us. And it's one of those, like, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes and lying ears type moments? All right, this is wild. Al Jazeera caught this on camera. So, of course, as you all know, massive, massive numbers of people in Gaza are starving. Israel did a total blockade, total siege, no food, no fuel, no water, no electricity. We've known this for a very long time, and it's been going on for a very long time. So we've had stories of people starving. Whenever an aid truck does happen to get into Gaza, it would be swarmed by people desperate to get some food in their belly. We covered a story the other day, a Palestinian mother picking weeds that grow in the winter to feed her family the weeds, because that's all they can get their hands on. Remember the drinking seawater to not go thirsty? We've seen that. So all this horrible, horrible stuff. 70% of the humanitarian aid that's supposed to be getting into Gaza is being blocked by Israel. All totally inexcusable. So here's an example. Somebody's starving. They hop on a boat to go out there to catch some fish to be able to eat and survive. And look at the result.
Israeli gunboats have also fired at Palestinian fishermen off the Gaza coast, threatening a vital source of food.
The men were using small boats to catch fish off the Gaza coast near Rafah.
So they shoot at them. Because they're trying to catch fish to survive, to be able to eat. Does this look like a hunt for Hamas to you? Do the people in this boat look like an imminent threat to Israeli civilians? We have to stop kidding ourselves. By the way, there are giant protests to prevent any humanitarian aid. Sorry, the camera's moving because Stinky's hitting it right now under the table. Protesters are trying to prevent any aid from getting to Palestinian civilians. There are massive Israeli protests by the border to basically say, let them starve. We want them to starve. All right. Owen Jones tweeted this here. This is from Andrew Gilmore, the UN Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights from 2016 to 2019. Here's what he said, quote, Israel's onslaught against Gaza is probably the highest kill rate of any military killing anybody since the Rwandan genocide of 1994. I want you to reflect on that. The highest kill rate of any military killing anybody since the Rwandan genocide of 1994. More. I've seen pictures like this all over the place online. So here's some IDF soldiers riding kids' bikes that they found in Gaza. There's also ones of a bunch of IDF soldiers leaning on canes that they got from either disabled people or old people who they either injured or killed. And look at them. They're all smiling. They're all happy. We've seen the videos of Israeli soldiers busting up all sorts of Palestinian shops. We've seen it come out of Gaza. We've seen it come out of the West Bank, where there is no Hamas. They're gleeful about what's going on here. They're gleeful about what they're doing. Owen Jones says here, gleefully posing on the bicycles of little kids who are likely to have had their homes bombed, who will certainly be traumatized, who may be maimed, who may be slaughtered. It's depraved behavior, and it screams, we can get away with anything. That's exactly right, Owen. They feel like they can get away with anything. You want to know why? Because they've gotten away with anything to this point. They are totally shielded by the U.S. No matter what they say, no matter what they do, no matter how barbaric their actions, no matter how illegal their actions, the U.S. has shielded them from any kind of accountability or justice. So this one, whoo boy, this really got to me. So Biden comes out and says, the U.S. will be announcing major sanctions on Russia on Friday over the death of Navalny. Now, do I have a problem with that? No, I don't have a problem with that. Navalny, despite, his ideology is not one I agree with. He's viewed as a Western puppet. I think all that's fair. But he's also a political prisoner, and political prisoners should never be killed. Full stop. Full stop. So do I have a problem with sanctions over that? No, I don't. I think that's very reasonable. But what I do have a problem with is looking at a situation where Israel kills 33,000 civilians, 60% of them women and children, 92% of them innocent civilians, 36,000 are killed overall, 33,000 are civilians. Looking at a situation like that where they bomb hospitals and schools and marketplaces and mosques and every kind of civilian infrastructure imaginable, and you don't sanction them. How can you look at what Israel's doing and not immediately cut off the weapons, immediately do an investigation, and try to sanction them? No, we're still supporting Israel and arming Israel as they kill more and more children on a daily basis. But Russia's gone too far with Navalny, so we got to sanction them. Again, it just goes to show you the mindset is, if you're on our team, we view you as the good guy, full stop. If you're on the other team, we view you as the bad guy, full stop. We don't allow for any nuance, for any detail, for anything that would override the narrative. No, we shut our brains off after we say, you're with us, you're good. You're with them, you're bad. So that's how you get a situation where we still back Saudi Arabia, even though they were doing a genocide in Yemen with our support and our money and our weapons. We don't care. We know how vicious they are when it comes to women's rights and gay rights and doing the death penalty to people who are apostates or are drug smugglers. We know that. We don't care. We just go out there and pretend like they're good guys. Forget all the facts about what the government is like. They're good guys. Now, Iran, bad guys. Horrible. Horrible. Russia, horrible. Horrible. Israel, glorious. It doesn't matter what they actually do. You can't keep up this facade any longer. Everybody knows you're a joke. I would actually like a government that cares about international law and human rights and applies it fairly and objectively. It's nowhere near objective. If you're going to sanction Russia for Navalny, you should have sanctioned Israel 47 times over for all of the innocent women and children that they killed on purpose. For the fact that they're starving 2.3 million people as we speak. How is that not worthy of sanctions? Of course it's worthy of sanctions. It's the most sanction-worthy thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh, God. Here's this one. Jesus. Israel's Minister of Settlements. Let me repeat that. Israel's Minister of Settlements and National Missions, Orit Struk, quote, "The entire land of Israel is ours, and we are its. And for this reason, there will not be a Palestinian state in the land of Israel, because there is no such thing as a Palestinian people. There is no such nation." Would you look at that? The Minister of Settlements and National Missions is saying, when Netanyahu has been saying for the past couple of weeks now, never a Palestinian state under any circumstance. Okay, well, one of the things Israel says about Hamas and Palestinians is there is no partner for peace. So what do you want us to do? We can't have a negotiation. We can't have diplomacy with people who are not interested in peace. Well, that's the reality when it comes to you. There is no negotiation to be had. There is no diplomacy on the way. If you're saying up front, we're rejecting out of hand the idea of a Palestinian state. And by the way, let's be clear, talking about a greater Israel doesn't just mean Israel gets to take over the entire West Bank and all of Gaza. It also means they get parts of other Arab nations in the region because they view greater Israel as much larger than what they currently have. So it would be illegally stealing way more land. And this is what they actually believe. This is what they actually want. So you're not a partner for peace. And in a situation where you're not a partner for peace, what should happen is the United States says, I don't really give a fuck. I'm going to force this on you. And you're going to accept it. And you're going to like it. I'm going to cut off your money. I'm going to cut off your weapons. I'm going to sanction the shit out of you. And I'm going to force a peace deal on you. And if you violate it, there will be consequences. You need to impose on them a deal where Palestinians get a state, human rights, justice, freedom, sovereignty, all of that. But they're saying, no, we have no interest. Now, by the way, where is the freak out in the West? Where is the freak out from Biden and the U.S. government when various Israeli officials come out and say, never a Palestinian state ever? If Hamas utters words similar to this on the other side, oh my God, they would see, oh, they're crazy, they're terrorists. You can't work with them. You can't trust them. They're telling you that they want to do more October 7th. They're telling you they don't think Israel should exist. Well, Palestine doesn't exist, and they're saying we will make sure it never exists, and you don't hear equal and opposite outrage against our ally Israel now, do you? Unfortunately, we don't have an updated graphic here. We don't have an updated number coming from Euromed Monitor. And that's a shame, but, you know, they just don't have the personnel on the ground that's needed anymore. A lot of these people are dead. A lot of these people can't do the work anymore. But as of February 13th, we had 36,671 Palestinians who were killed. 33,590 of them were civilians. 8,122 of them are women. 14,031 of them are children. So 92% civilian death rate, 60% women and children death rate. The numbers are actually higher now. I would be shocked if it wasn't already over 40,000 innocent Palestinians. Or 40,000 Palestinians in total killed. All right. This is the final thing I'll show you for this segment. Health experts estimate that without a ceasefire, about 58,260 Palestinians will die in the next 6 months. Not from Israeli bombs, but from excess mortality. In other words, traumatic wounds, infectious diseases, other deaths that would be preventable if a ceasefire were to go into effect immediately. 58,260 Palestinians could die in the next 6 months if the status quo continues, and that's assuming Israel doesn't even drop another bomb, which we know they're going to do because they're already doing it. They did it in Rafah this week, and they're not going to stop. So what are we actually looking at here? What's going to be 60,000, 70,000, 100,000? Is it going to be 50,000 children? Is that what's going to happen? To Joe Biden and the Democrats, we see you. We see you. We know what's happening. It's not 1995. We can get all the information in real time, what's happening on the ground. And we know how ugly it is. And we know how genocidal it is. And we know how you've given it a green light. Even if you put aside the morality and the ethics of this, which you shouldn't, even from a raw, careerist, ambitious, political perspective, about saving your ass politically, you have to change course. But, you know, when you say stuff like this, it feels like you're pissing into a hurricane. It feels like none of it is going the right way. And I don't know what to do about that. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.